Much needed win for them last night, as we discussed earlier today. You don't want to over dramatize it, but I've been guilty of that. And look, we only have 14 games to go on. If your whole attitude is it's a small sample size and don't worry about anything, well, then why watch? So they're 7-7, which to me is underachieving. They lost 3 out of 4 to the Blue Jays, which shouldn't be happening. But all of that said, you didn't want to get swept. You didn't want to lose that game yesterday. You didn't want to waste another start like you did the day prior for Tanner Houck and waste it for Walker Buehler yesterday. And so I do think, credit to the Red Sox, they walk it off. Trevor Story drilled it into the ground after not even being able to make a connection, or contact rather, the day prior. And so give them credit for the walk-off win. They needed it.
Yeah, and I think Walker Buehler was definitely the brightest spot of yesterday. And his first 2 starts weren't great. I think he had talked about how he had never actually pitched at Fenway Park before. And after his first one, remember, they scored a bunch of runs for him. And he was like, hey, they basically, they bailed me out, but, what an electric atmosphere. So I think he was looking forward to pitching in Fenway, and he was really good. Tanner Houck also had a really good start. So some promising things over the last 2 days, but you needed the result because it's early in the year, and yet they've already had a 4-game losing streak and a 3-game losing streak. And then in the middle of that was a 5-game winning streak.
Yeah.
So they're kind of all over the place.
So what does that mean for they're going to sweep the White Sox? That means they're going to sweep the White Sox.
They should sweep the White Sox.
They have
probably.
The White Sox have 2 wins and were legitimately one of the worst teams, arguably the worst team.
I think the worst team ever.
In the history of Major League Baseball a year ago.
And that was with Crochet.
Should they sweep the White Sox? Yes, they should sweep the White Sox.
They have the White Sox twice in the next 3 series, 7 total games with the White Sox. So I don't even think it's being that greedy to say they should go 7-3 in their next 10 games.
Yeah. How many should they win against Chicago? They have 7 games coming up just against the White Sox. 6.
6.
I will allow for
5-2. I'll take.
6.
All right.
I will allow for 1 hit. You get 1 hiccup. Did they split last year, Nick? Didn't they split with the White Sox last year? They had a 4-game series in Chicago.
Series in Chicago,
and they split. And you're like, this team is historic, arguably the worst team ever.
The clubhouse.
No, that was.
Jaron Duran was not too. I think it was Jaron Duran was like, let's get out of this S-hole.
Oh, right. That was Chicago. Yeah, I guess.
See, you know what?
Let me look it up.
Nick was even in the last break and said that, and I didn't remember it being Chicago. I do remember that part. That was in Chicago when he said that?
Yeah, because I think they had a walk-off or a late win.
Huh. Okay, last year against the White Sox, they were 4-3.
Yeah.
The White Sox won 13 games.
That's not going to get it done. No, right. How many games did they win? They won 60 No, 60. They won 40 games last year? What'd they win? And 4 were against the Red Sox?
Good question.
So, maybe we shouldn't chalk up a bunch of wins for this team.
No, I guess maybe we made a mistake. Yeah, they went 41-121.
And 4 of them were against the Red Sox.
That's right.
Yeah, it's pathetic. I'm sorry, 3 of them were against the Red Sox.
10% of their wins were against the Red Sox.
Not great.
No.
So, 6 is the number, and they should fatten up on these teams coming up, and they needed that win. All of that, though, Keefe, they get the victory, which you give him credit for. Buehler was really good. Good for him. He still has been disappointing on balance, but maybe that will lead to more success out of him. Same thing with Houck in his last start. All the same problems that were there going into yesterday were still there. They couldn't score. They struck out 10 more times. They lead the big leagues in strikeouts by an even wider margin because not as many teams played yesterday, so not necessarily their fault. But 10 more Ks yesterday. The Red Sox lead the bigs in strikeouts. 2 more errors yesterday. And I think the most egregious thing that happened was on a play where an error happened, but it wasn't even charged as an error to Christian Campbell, where he's like a toenail away from second base and decided to flip it to Trevor Story.
Yeah, unnecessary flip.
Who then airmailed the throw because he's rushed. 2 more errors for the Red Sox. They lead the bigs in errors as well. All the same issues that have been on display were on display yesterday despite the win, so that's still concerning.
Yeah.
They're 7-7. They dropped 3 out of 4. Overall, I don't feel great about them, but it's more like a, you needed a win, you got to win, and you're able to hold it off for just a little while.
Yeah, they ran into a couple of outs. They also gave them a couple of extra outs. And then you're talking about a game that goes into extra innings. And you're like, it's that close that you almost gave it away. Another reason why with Campbell, I just want him to stay at second base and get comfortable at second base.
Stop throwing him in center field.
Yeah. I don't think that really helps the development.
He doesn't look comfortable. I'm telling you could probably play him out there for a while. He's not going to look comfortable.
But I think you have a better chance of it, don't you? All right, well, today you're in center field.
Yes.
And now you have to do that.
And we're shoehorning in David Hamilton to what end?
I don't need that.
What did he get the winning run yesterday? So but
okay, fine.
But,
he's not hitting it all.
I don't need to jam him into the lineup.
No.
And, if you're going to jam him into the lineup, just give Campbell a day. So I'm with you on this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have a lot of tolerance with Campbell as long as he's hitting to roll out there at second base and make errors. I'm not going to not point them out when they happen.
Right.
And you wonder, big picture, if he can handle the position, but I'm going to let him figure it out. And it's not Rafael Devers leading the American League in errors for 8 years, and I go, I've seen enough. I'm not going to overreact to 2 weeks of Christian Campbell at second base. But clearly he does not look ready. Although, not to keep bringing it back to the clubhouse, it took Duran a long time in the major leagues to move from infield to outfield and get comfortable with that. And so at the big league level, Campbell, give him some time and give him some rope. I'm okay with that. But, yeah, he does not look comfortable at second, and maybe bouncing him around from infield to outfield isn't helping.
Yeah, I can't imagine that is the best thing for him. I mean, he's in the lineup, and that's important, and at least he's hitting. So it's not like both things are happening, and he's fighting it. Like, if he wasn't hitting and he was booting the ball, you could see that that'd be a really tough start for a guy. And then if you're Cora, you really got to get with him, make sure he doesn't lose his confidence. But at the very least, he's got a good thing. He's got to feel comfortable at the plate. And it's kind of funny because he was pretty bad in the spring. He got 1 million at bats. He was like second or third on the team in at bats. Didn't hit all that great in the spring. We were talking about how I don't know if he won the job as much as it was sort of a bag job for him. And then he came out on fire. So you're like, all right, at least he has that going for him. But yeah, his defense is going to be a question for a while.
What's more concerning, the errors or the strikeouts?
Probably the strikeouts, because it's everybody. It's top to bottom, and they're not getting the home runs. So a couple days ago, we were talking about how they're at the top of the league in strikeouts. Yeah, but so are the Dodgers. Right? It was sort of like, wow, man, if you're anything like the Dodgers, that's probably good. Yeah, but the Dodgers have 1 million more home runs.
Well, and that is small sample size for the Dodgers, because a year ago we went through all the top 5 teams that struck out the most in baseball, and all 5 missed the playoffs, so including the Red Sox.
Right. And so the Red Sox last year and this year seem to be at the top of the league in Ks, and they're hitting the ball in the air a lot, but they're not hitting the ball out of the ballpark. And maybe if you wanted to make excuses, you'd say, well, when the weather warms up, maybe they will hit the ball out of the ballpark. All right, so be it. It's cold in a lot of these games around baseball right now. Teams are hitting home runs. The Red Sox aren't. So, yeah, I'd be a little bit more concerned. Once again, they struck out 10 times. Have they struck out 10 times like every single game, it feels like?
Probably.
They must have.
Again, it took extras yesterday, but they got there yesterday with 10 more Ks. I'm more concerned about the defense, personally. But the smoking gun with the strikeouts is in 2023, they were 18th. Breslow came in with the driveline guys. They spiked to third last year, and now they lead the bigs in strikeouts. So that does speak to a change in approach when Breslow and his analytics crew came in. And if you're going to hit home runs like the Dodgers, well, then I'm willing to put up with it. If it's an all-or-nothing approach, but there's some all mixed in there,
yeah, where's the
fine.
all? Yeah.
Too much nothing.